Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast, hosted by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am their host, Ethan, alongside host Bryce. Bryce, how are you feeling today?
I'm straight, man. I'm just going through the grind every day. Just it's going through life, man. How about you?
I'm doing all right. It was your birthday yesterday?
Yes, it was yesterday. Yeah, Sunday was my birthday. I had to go celebrate real quick in the city. So, it was a good time, man.
All right, man. Well, we have a lot to get through today. We're going to talk about some of the championship games, of course, some Twitter antics, of course, because, you can't always celebrate without somebody trying to rain on your parade, and also just some speculatory where different players are going to end up, as some guys are getting to the twilight of their careers, and they might be still trying to chase what everybody chases when they get into the league, which is the big trophy. So first, let's talk about first game that we watched, the Chiefs versus the Titans. Just exactly what did you end up seeing yesterday that stood out to you just right off the bat?
Obviously, you want to give a shout out to the Tennessee Titans for a great season. They put up a great fight, obviously in the first half. Obviously they were up 17-7, but just the Chiefs' offense is one of the most unstoppable offenses that we've seen in the NFL, because one thing that's crazy about it is because Patrick Mahomes can sling the rock in any weather and do it just as efficiently as he's done it in a dome. And with the receivers that he has, with the speed that they possess, they're extremely hard to cover. Kansas City is one of those teams where they're a team that you have to score to beat them. You can't expect a defensive game where it's going to be like 13-13. Only one team's able to pull that off, and that's when Kansas City was kind of up and down for the most part. But, with the Chiefs being as dominant as they are offensively and everything, I think that it just really shows that they're a team to be reckoned with for years to come, not even this year. Potentially you could even maybe make the argument that a dynasty could be created if the Chiefs go into the Super Bowl and win in Miami, because, next year you're going to think who's going to be better than them, because, I guess we don't know what happened with the Patriots. We don't know what's happened with the Steelers. Tennessee could get better potentially. There's really no team that just stands out like, yeah, they're going to be the team that beats them, every year, especially if the defense can stay at least halfway decent, because usually with teams like this, you have these great offenses, and you usually never have great defenses most of the time. You may have one year where you have a great defense, but most of the time you need at least an average defense to really, make a run with this team. And, like I said, with Patrick Mahomes leading the charge and Andy Reid with such a great offensive play caller, I think that the Chiefs are just a team that I see them as favorites going in the Super Bowl, as they were early 1.5 favorites going into it. But, obviously, we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, Miami, even at this time of year, isn't that cold, so it's not like they're going to be playing in rigid conditions unless it's raining, which obviously is a possibility playing in Miami. So I think that they're on track to pretty much be in great position to win the Super Bowl. But also, yeah, like I said, talking about Tennessee, they had a great season. Derrick Henry didn't have one of his monster games, which we can say maybe contributed to it. They weren't even expected to be here. People, thought, they were just going to be that team that sneaks in, but they're not really. Like, you would think the 6th seed in the AFC really wasn't that good, because every team had flaws. Like, obviously, Pittsburgh, if they got in, they have no offense, even though they have an elite defense. Tennessee, it's kind of weird, but you could say they're the most complete team out of those teams that could have made it just because they have Derrick Henry and they have a decent passing attack and their offense was in the top 10 after Tannehill took over. So they had potential and their defense was in the middle of the pack. So they had potential and they made the most out of it. I mean, listen, they beat the dynasty and they beat the upcoming MVP. And that's something you can't take away from them. That's an amazing accomplishment. And they fought to the end and, they just fell a little short, man. But, I think next year, like I said, you can always improve on this team. We know Tannehill's probably going to get paid this offseason. Derrick Henry's definitely going to get paid too. And we're just going to have to see what happens with them in the entire UFC. What did you take out of the game?
For me, it's what you look back at the earlier parts of the season, the two teams coming out the AFC that people really looked at to really make some noise were really just the Patriots and Kansas City. And more people were hot on Kansas City just because they were really one play away from making it to the Super Bowl last year. Mahomes should be better than he was last year. And, there was a lot of setbacks in the middle of the season. So that's when everybody hopped on the Baltimore wave and were really riding Lamar Jackson. And he became kind of the next big thing coming out of the AFC. And we all kind of forgot about just how good Patrick Mahomes is. And he's still, like, his MVP season last year was, no one ever is going to replicate those type of numbers again. He won't ever play to that level again, I don't think. That was just astronomical amounts of stats and just the air yardage and stuff like that. No one's going to go and do that again. However, he's still probably the best quarterback in the league, a borderline best player in the league. So now it's just a constant reminder that they've been getting better and better as the weeks gone on. They've gotten healthy. So all their players are getting back together and playing at the same time. So the chemistry is getting together on offense. And their defense has improved astronomically comparative to where they were at the beginning of the season. So when you put all of those things together, you really do have to look at them being the front runner. If they do win the Super Bowl, why would they not be the next thing to repeat? Because in reality, if the Chiefs go to Super Bowl last year, they probably beat the 49ers, you think? Or no? Or sorry, not the 49ers, but the Rams.
But, I mean, if it's weird because they had played earlier that year. We remember that classic game that they had on Monday Night Football.
Right.
Which I think the Chiefs won that game? Or the Rams? I can't remember. Do you remember?
I think the Rams might have won that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, the thing about it is, yes, I could say that, but at the same time, the Chiefs defense was not the Patriots defense. So the Rams probably would have put up a much better game. So you would maybe say there was a better chance for the Rams to win it. But I mean, definitely the Chiefs could win it and win the Super Bowl. So, because you would think from a team perspective, the Rams were more of a complete team last year because they had a defense and they had a great offense in the regular season. But yeah, I think the Chiefs could have won the game just because at that moment, Patrick Mahomes could drop 40 and 50 on any defense regardless. I mean, I remember the two New England games last year. In the first half, they had single digits. By the end of the game, they had 40 plus. I mean, it's not something you can control the whole game. So I think Kansas City would have won last year.
Well, their offense is, you can't really stop them. They're so fast. So you have one of the biggest deep threats that we've ever seen in football right now in Tyreek Hill. You have to always account for him no matter who's on the field. And then the person right next to him is McCole Hartman, who is only like a tick slower than him. So then Travis Kelce is one of the fastest tight ends in the game. Of course, we have their running backs back and forth can really get in space. Like Damian Williams is a good catch out the backfield type of running back. And Patrick Mahomes is not the fastest guy, but he can definitely get out there and run.
Yeah, he's kind of like would you say he's kind of like a Russell Wilson a little bit in that way?
I think Russell Wilson's faster.
I mean, yeah, but like he uses his mobility to pass, like Russell basically does, unless they have to run. But they have the ability to run too.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's displayed the ability to kind of, dump off a pass real quick and draw in defenders, which I think now is becoming more prevalent. You see that a lot more going on in the NFL now, where quarterbacks aren't always just looking to pass, but they force defenses to pick. Or or to commit. So they put the guy who's in a spy or is chasing down the quarterback to fully commit. And then once they do that, they throw that little shovel pass, or they do the sidearm pass to somebody sneaking out of the flats or is right above, and they kind of loft it over a defender. So he's one of those quarterbacks that can be really good at that. And, you know, Pat Mahomes, he makes all the throws and then throws that nobody can make. So I remember last year when he threw that little sidearm with the left hand, and that went and did news cycles just because how could you do that? Last year I came to him like the Steph Curry of football, and now I think that he still is that to some degree, but he's definitely a better quarterback now. I think he's a better leader now. Before he was just he wasn't a rookie last year, but kind of a rookie, right? He was
that was his first full year.
And now he kind of understands where he's at in the game, and now he's a Super Bowl competitor now, for real. So we'll just have to wait and see what exactly happens with that. But let's take a quick break, and then we'll get into the NFC Championship game.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, so getting into the NFC Championship game, we had the 49ers and the Packers, and honestly, that game was not as exciting as the AFC game. It started off a bit rough for the Packers, and then they tried to claw themselves back out of the hole they kind of dug themselves into. But at the end of the day, the 49ers really controlled that game from start to finish, and it was really a very old school effort. Mm-hmm. And by old school, I mean, how many passes did I have more fingers than the amount of passing attempts that Jimmy Garoppolo threw for. So he threw 8 times.
Yeah.
NFC Championship. 8 times he had to throw the ball. I don't know what that means for the Packers defense, because they're pretty good. They're not horrible. They have a good pass rush. And I know one of their, Jair Alexander, he was out for the game. So that does hurt their secondary. But to be honest, was their secondary needed today or yesterday? Because in reality, they only passed 8 times.
Yeah.
Mostert ran literally all over the place. Like, it looked like a college football highlight tape where it looked like Reggie Bush running around in college at USC. Like, he was just bursting through, making 2 people miss and keep going, getting 20 extra yards. He was just all over the place. And they threw the ball to George Kittle one time. Bryce.
I mean,
one time.
It must be great knowing you don't have to use your best receiving weapons that much.
I don't know where Green Bay kind of went wrong. I didn't think that their run defense was this bad, but if you really look at it, they're Juszczyk and Kittle as blockers on the outside or whatever. How are you supposed to, when they're that good at blocking outside runs and being able to just pick up yardage and have really, really good blocking schemes? I don't know really how do you really stop that as a defense? And, you know, Kansas City defense is okay. They stopped Derrick Henry, but their offensive line isn't as good as the 49ers is. And this is what it's capable of to do against a pretty good defense. So what do they do? Because I'm a little bit distraught, to say the least. This was a team that earlier in the season, like in weeks 5 and 6, were obviously the best defense in the NFL. Their stats were ridiculous, and we knew their offense was okay. And then their defense kind of fell off a bit due to injuries and stuff. And now they're starting to they're starting to remind the rest of the football world that, where they were beforehand and that they've figured some things out, and that bye week that they got really did help them pull everything kind of together. And now everything's gelling at the right time for them, and they're literally just destroying people. They destroyed the Vikings and they destroyed the Packers. So 2 NFC North teams have been dismantled in the playoffs so far.
Yeah, definitely. Really, the 49ers just had a great game plan, really. They have 2 great edge rushers in Green Bay, but you neutralize them by running the ball, which they just run right up the middle on them. And obviously, 49ers are one of the best run-blocking teams in the league, and they just pushed the Packers back. And honestly, the Packers have always been looked at as a finesse defense, not a physical defense. So the 49ers are a physical offense. So obviously, that's why in the games that they lost, they went against physical teams. And that's why they lost those games. And they didn't have a good showing in those games, too. They lost to Philadelphia when they had lost a lot of they had just began losing weapons. Obviously, they got destroyed by the 49ers earlier this year. They've not showed up in some games, and it just shows. Remember, everybody had questions about this Green Bay team too. I see tweets, I see people say this is the most fraudulent 13-3 team I've ever seen, because they felt like they were really never that good. It's weird because it looked like the NFC is the best because they have everybody who had at least 11 wins almost. But realistically, Green Bay just had a good matchup in the second round because they had a Seattle Seahawks team that didn't have a great rusher at that moment. And honestly, if Aaron Rodgers had those 2-3 throws, you don't know what would have happened. And, if Minnesota had got their cards right and played them, they may have had a better chance, even though they've struggled against them. It's just one of those things where they just happened to be a product of what they faced and everything, and they didn't have a tough schedule, and you just were having questions about them almost squeaking it out against teams they shouldn't have any trouble squeaking it out against.
They almost lost to the Lions in the last game of the
They
season.
almost lost to the Lions twice. Really, they honestly could have been swept by the Lions this year. Because obviously, I don't know if you remember that Monday night game, but they had those phantom hands to the face calls, which got led Green Bay to keep their drive going for them to kick the game-winning field goal. But basically, Green Bay they had a lot of holes that you saw. And, you really wanted to believe that, when the big game comes, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, they can make it a game, and they just can't. Because you got to think about the team constructed. Outside of Devontae Adams, they really don't have a reliable receiver. Mm-hmm. They have Aaron Jones, but it's if you're down early, you can't really run them. So you're kind of stuck now with one receiver you trust and a bunch of guys you don't trust. Plus, also, they've been talking about how Aaron Rodgers has been super safe this year. He hasn't made a lot of big-time throws, a lot of, down-the-field throws, and they're wondering why. And I think that just has to do with the trust of their receivers.
Really?
Because here's the thing, too. Devontae Adams isn't a deep threat. He's like a Julian Edelman who could just kind of do almost every route, but you don't really see him going 60 yards down the go run a go. But everybody and all the other receivers aren't really. They're not as efficient as deep threats either.
Well, you know what it is. I think it's also has to do with the fact that Aaron Rodgers just isn't as young as he used to be, so you can't expect him to sling it from the 40 to the end zone anymore. It's just not something that he can do. I remember at the end of that game, he threw off off the run and threw it maybe 40 yards downfield, and he underthrew. I forgot who the receiver it was, but he underthrew him 10 yards. And it was a tough throw, but vintage Aaron Rodgers might have given the receiver a better chance at catching that football. And at the end of the day, you kind of have to look at it like this. Aaron Rodgers is not who he used to be, and honestly, this season was kind of a dramatic drop-off comparative to what we've seen. And now it's more so just from the eye test, because the numbers may tell you, it's still kind of the same as far as efficiency and stuff like that. But from the eye test and just looking at the way he's playing, at the way the play calls have been, the way they've used Aaron Jones more and more as a guy that's very the Aaron Rodgers more so is feeding off of the momentum that Aaron Jones creates rather than Aaron Rodgers is dotting up a defense left and right, because it's very reminiscent to what Drew Brees was doing last year and the year before when, clearly his athleticism and his ability to throw the football down the field, like on deep routes and take the top off of defenses, has declined year after year after year. And he's been more of a 10 yards out route, people in space, dink and dunk style to pick up yards and chunks. And I remember when Mark Ingram and Kamara were really carrying that team offensively for the most part last year. And now, this year was more akin to, there was just a lot of weird stuff with the Saints offense considering that Drew Brees was hurt. So there's not a full sample size, but this is very reminiscent to similar things. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense really depended on their run game to really get them going because they don't have that many receiving weapons. Jimmy Graham is not the Jimmy Graham from even 3 years ago, let alone from when he was in New Orleans. Devontae Adams is a solid piece. He's a really good wide receiver, but everybody else are kind of, they're not the best. You just work with what you got.
Average Joes, man.
Yeah, so when Aaron Jones is really your second best wide receiver, that's a problem, right? So you look at it from that way, then, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have as much to work with. You can say the same thing about Tom Brady. However, I do think Aaron Rodgers, I think he's like 6-7 now since he's won the Super Bowl as far as his playoff record. Mm-hmm. And I wonder where this is going to place him in that conversation of being one of the better quarterbacks this generation because, people like Phillip Rivers, who hasn't even won one, but like Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, people with one or less Super Bowls, they really do take a lot of hits, but Aaron Rodgers has kind of been shielded from that kind of criticism outside of in the national media. I don't know about locally people might be questioning his ability, but at least nationally people don't really bring it up as much. But it may be time to start really talking about, just how good really has Aaron Rodgers really been for that team. And, a lot of people will say, the weapons around him have not been the best, or he hasn't had the best defenses. And, it's never been something that Drew Brees got away with. Not to be a homer today, but that's just something that I've seen recently. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see just how much people really look at this next season, just as Aaron Rodgers will continue to age, because that's how life works. Mm-hmm. But we're going to take another break here, and then we're going to get into some online Twitter shenanigans that happened after the NFC Championship game. That'll be coming up.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, so last night not only did champions be named as far as divisionals and, or not divisionals, but as in conference champions, but also there was some, I guess, Twitter beef. Was it, they beefing? Were they beefing?
Yeah, you can kind of say that. I mean, really, the referees just said some things. Richard Sherman just got a whiff of it, had to respond, so.
Right, and it's funny just to watch that back and forth. So, if you don't know what we're talking about, renowned cornerback, generational man-to-man corner, Darrelle Revis, has some things to say about Richard Sherman during the NFC Championship game, where basically he was saying that he's not as good as either as Richard Sherman says he is, or how people have proclaimed him to be, because he does not follow the best receiver all the time, and he doesn't always play man-to-man, and that he is a cover 3 cornerback in a zone corner. And then Richard Sherman replied back to Darrelle Revis, basically stating that he's about to get to his next Super Bowl while you're on the couch. Your year 9 looked a whole lot different compared to his year 9 in the league. Bryce, what does this mean to you, really?
I mean, hey, Richard Sherman has been very vocal on Twitter all year long. Anytime he sees anything reported or said, he is not afraid to go back and say something. So I'm not surprised. I mean, honestly, you kind of wonder how it started. I'm sure Darrelle Revis probably was seeing the praise that Richard Sherman was getting and was just like, okay, hold on a second. Let's not make this man seem like he's the greatest cornerback since sliced bread. Like, I was better than him when I played because I traveled with guys, I locked guys down, et cetera, et cetera. So, obviously Richard Sherman probably saw this and was like, okay, so people want to talk. All right, I'm going to say something. So then he just, he had a series of tweets. He said multiple things to him. He even posted I think his last response, he had posted a picture of him, Darrelle Revis, actually getting burned by a Buffalo wide receiver. And he was just, and I think Richard just did what he just normally does. He's just like, listen, you're not going to talk about me in this way and make it seem like I'm not that good. Cause he's like, at the end of the day, Darrelle, you don't have any rings or anything. I do. Like I'm, what I'm saying? I'm the guy. And I've been doing it for a long time. And yeah, I mean, there's that argument, obviously, what makes a great corner. Or does he travel? Because he cover 3? Because, he's been playing kind of that same system since the Seattle days, the Legion of Boom days, when people considered him one of the best corners in the game. Because at the end of the day, I feel like it's like, if he gets a receiver and he locks him down, regardless of who he is, then he's a pretty darn good corner. If teams are purposely not putting their wide receiver on him, then they know he is their best corner on a week-to-week basis. And if we put our best receiver against him, there's a chance that he might not have a great game, which is why they would put him on other corners. Now, you could sit here and say just mismatches, but you tell me you're going to put your worst wide receiver on their best corner? I mean, I understand that's really just purpose of him not getting the ball in the play, but if you're locking up everybody, then, I mean, you really can't complain, that, he's not that good. I think, obviously we can make that argument that since Darrelle Revis was more of a travel corner, yeah, you can say he traveled and shut people down, but at the same time, listen, Richard Sherman is great in his own hand. I mean, you got to think about it. He's a different type of corner. I think Darrelle Revis was a smaller cornerback. Richard is a taller cornerback. Richard's not a guy also who's going to sit out here and beat you with speed or he's faster than anybody, but he has good fundamentals, good technique. He knows his assignments, and he usually plays them very well. Mm-hmm. And so I just think that, sometimes it just happens. I mean, whenever you start talking about who's the best and who's been the best of the generation, who's the best of this, and you have a player who may feel like they're in that argument and they're not getting the same love and respect they got, or maybe they feel forgotten, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, now they're going to say something about that current player, and then, you'll have a little clapback session on Twitter, so,
Yeah, like, that's my thing, is why do these old guys do this so much? Do they miss the game? Go coach or go play in a league that's not as competitive. So like a flag football league. Like go play in Michael Vick's league or something like that. If you got I understand that like to be an athlete at the highest of levels, your ego probably has to be so high to keep playing at that level because you have to believe in yourself and you have to think that you are the best that you're able to do, or else you just won't be able to, I guess, perform as good as you will ever, especially at the cornerback. Cornerbacks and wide receivers, they have to have this, I guess, bravado to themselves, or else, it just doesn't always work out that way. It's very hard to be 100% humble all the time and also, be able to be competitive at a large scale, especially these days and age where everybody's coming after you. Like, even at a certain point, someone like a DeAndre Hopkins, he didn't talk that much, but now he's very, very vocal. When you realize that you are the best, one of the best in your position, you get very vocal about it because you want to let people know. So maybe Darrelle just wants to let people know that he was the best corner ever. But even then, so that doesn't matter. You're not playing right now. So why did this happen? I just don't think it was necessary, to be honest. And you see a lot of this kind of stuff. It's getting to dangerous territories on how social media has just become a platform for people to just say things that are wrong, bad things, and create stories for themselves. Because I mean, Darrell's at home. Is he ever on like NFL Today or NFL Live? Or
I don't
like
ever
that?
see Darrell on anything.
Yeah, so.
Honestly, I'm be 100% honest. I completely forgot about him until
man.
yesterday. I really did, because I was just like, I forgot when he was. I know his last team he was with, I think, was Kansas City, but was it like 2 years ago or something? Like almost 2 years ago, he was with Kansas City.
I don't know. He was kind of like he got let go from. Remember his last stint in Tampa was because he couldn't play zone.
Oh
and
yeah,
they had to let him go. But just to wrap this one up, let's go ahead. Another former player, he might be leaving CBS potentially for a lot more money.
Yeah, Tony Romo, man. He's about to be offered about $10-14 million a year by certain companies. ESPN, they said, wants to offer him that. Tony Romo is, ever since retiring, has really instantly became one of the best, color guys.
His color analysis is top notch.
The fact that how he predicts plays and everything, it's just, he's so good. He's not overbearing. He's not, because there's a lot of people you hear about who complains about different people. Like, obviously, Monday Night Football. I mean, you have half people like Booger McFarland, half of them don't. Because, they talk about that Booger logic. Well, if they lose the game, he's like, if they have less points than the other team, they're going to lose the game. And it's just like,
I think Booger gets a bad rap.
I know.
I don't think he's that bad, but he does have some questionable moments.
I mean, it happens. Yeah. I mean, remember when Jason Witten was there last year? That wasn't great.
No.
Even some of the top guys, like a lot of people, I find a lot of people don't really like Joe Buck.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like him. So it's like, and Tony Romo's one of the people that a lot of people like. And everybody sees that, and he's very much valued. Now, the thing is, CBS can match any deal that any other company offers them. So there's a very strong possibility. I think CBS knows our top teams with Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, we need to keep them. We need to keep them together. Right. So I think, even though it's unprecedented, they also think about it too. Since I feel like it helps that he used to be a former player, because it's like, he has that extra oomph to him, where he's just not like just a top guy. He's a top NFL color guy. Yeah. So now you got that extra money that he can get. So he's going to be rich regardless.
Right.
He's going to get he's getting paid a lot of money. And I'm sure Fox might try to get in there, maybe potentially try to get him. But you really hear more like CBS. I mean, it's trying to get him back. ESPN. Maybe NBC might try to get in there and get him. Oh. I mean,
could you imagine him and Collinsworth?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they take Collinsworth out. They might add him to it and just have.
That's what I'm saying. Like if they added Romo to Collinsworth,
I mean, because some people don't like Collinsworth, so it's like, you got Romo in there. Maybe it works out.
I don't know. Collinsworth's still probably one of the best in the.
I mean, I like him. I don't have a problem with him.
I think everybody just commentating live commentary in sports. Sports commentators get a bad rap. This is a really hard job to do.
Yeah.
And it's not super, especially for like television and radio. Those two they're different styles of commentary. So some people might be good at one thing. In reality, they're maybe better than the other. But that's just, we'll just have to wait and see on that. So we're going to take another break, and then coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about some general NFL topics and news, and just see what's been going on around the league.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, so we're just going to get into some general news and topics that's been going around the NFL inner circles. So first thing on the list is Dez Bryant possibly returning. What do you have to say about that, Bryce?
I mean, yeah, he's been working out. He's been getting ready for a return, getting himself back in shape. Obviously, if you remember, he signed with the Saints about last season and tore his, was it Achilles? Was his Achilles?
Yeah,
he
tore his Achilles. It was a tough scene.
Yeah, so he's getting ready, and they said that he's one of his target places is the Cowboys. Now I don't know if they'd welcome him back. Maybe I don't know where he would fit into the offense now, especially. I mean, it's one thing if they lose Amari Cooper, that may be something they have to explore. But it's still at that point, they may be like, we'll draft the guy before we bring back Dez. Because our offense truly didn't open up till Amari got there. Mm-hmm. So if we bring in Dez, he's more of a possession goal line receiver now at this point in his career. So
I mean, I guess the real reason is, do you want to? I mean, the guy would have to take another vet minimum, I would assume, right?
Yeah,
so he'd take a vet minimum.
There's no way he can ask for any type of money.
And we've seen what receivers do when they get to a certain age and they get hurt or they try to come back. They don't really come back, sort of. You know what I'm saying? Like they may come and touch a football, but they may not come back. Who went to Tennessee those years ago? Was it Randy Moss? I think it was Randy Moss that went to Tennessee, like his last twilight year in the NFL, and he stopped before he just officially decided to retire.
I honestly cannot remember, to be honest with you. I really cannot.
I know, it wasn't.
I remember.
I think it was Randy because I
remember a couple of years ago or last year. Remember the Vontae Davis?
Yeah,
he stopped like halftime. He retired.
Yeah.
First half, he retired. He's like, I'm done with the season. I'm out of here, guys. So, I mean, I don't think Dez would go and pull a halftime retirement, but I mean, it's definitely something that we don't know of at that moment. We'll have to see what Dez can do. I mean, Dez, again, like I said, he could be useful. He can kind of be in that Anquan Bolden when he retired role, where he on Baltimore his last years he was just basically just pick up the sticks in the old line. I mean, just simple with short range, because Dez has never been a guy who could beat you with speed anyway, especially now at this point in his career. But he's a big guy, so you can use him in matchups against smaller corners.
Yeah.
But I mean, they said Dallas is big. I think he put a list out there too. I think New England was on that list before. Cause he tweets a lot too.
Yeah.
So, I think he has his list of teams that he would want to go to.
I still just don't know. I don't think going to New England would be the best decision for New England.
Yeah, that's like we basically.
This is not like a Randy Moss situation where you're getting somebody who
can still basically be the number one receiver in the league.
No, this is
a guy who's pretty much, you know what he is.
Yeah. He's a guy coming off of off a bad Achilles injury, and a guy, before then, we didn't really know exactly what he was anyway. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. The next thing is another Cowboy, and of his own right, Jason Witten. Maybe he still doesn't want to hang it up, but he may not be going back to the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. If you were aware of the news and coaching, Jason Garrett took a job with the Giants as the offensive coordinator. A lot of people are wondering why. He doesn't really need the money. He doesn't have to jump into the league. And plus, he wanted to be a head coach again, so why people were like, why don't you wait a year and then try to go? But yeah, so he was the offensive coordinator of the Giants. And Witten also, I think is about to become a free agent. And obviously, Witten retired, remember, last year, before this year, and then he was in the booth, and then that didn't work, and then he came back, and he thought because the Cowboys could make a Super Bowl run. Well, now with Mike McCarthy at the helm, there's a very strong possibility they might want to bring Jason Witten back. They need a more athletic tight end, a more efficient tight end, because you could actually honestly say tight end was maybe a weak position on the receiving end for the Cowboys. And so why not go with the guy who, I guess he feels like gives him the best chance to be Jason Witten on the Giants. I mean, and then at the same time, Witten wouldn't be the number one tight end because they have Evan Ingram there, and they have Rhett Smith, who is a pretty good tight end in his own right. So, I mean, Witten would probably go there and be like a third tight end. He would probably come there and be the veteran leadership. Make some nice blocks, a nice catch here and there. You know what I'm saying? Nothing too serious. If that's what he wants to do, I mean, hey, if he wants to keep playing and do that, then I mean, why not? That's how I feel about it.
Hey, I mean, more power to him if he still thinks he can get it down there. You would think Jerry Jones would let him go, though?
I mean, I feel like, realistically, if Mike McCarthy has more power as they say he does, I feel like Mike McCarthy would let him go. Because I feel like he's a liability on your offense. I mean, yeah, goal line, he can maybe do something, but outside of that, he's really a liability. Blake Jarwin's more of an asset to you now. So I feel like you don't know how the team's going to look next year receiving-wise, especially with Amari Cooper up in the air. And, you may want to go younger at that position potentially.
Yeah.
So,
and to be honest, this is a different looking Cowboys team. Then I think it's time you got to move on, clean house, I guess, so to speak. And
I think he's the last remaining Cowboy from the season they went.
What, 14-2?
Yeah, with DeMarco Murray.
I don't know. I think their offensive line still has the same guy.
Oh yeah, that's the same. But I'm talking like in terms from the receiving, like from every other position. Because offensive line that's been in place for a second.
Yeah,
but yeah, because that was the first. I think that year was the first year of the offensive line coming together. I think.
Yeah,
with DeMarco Murray,
like with Zach Martin and then
Tyron Smith, and all them. But yeah, so.
And then next we have Derrick Henry in line for a big deal this offseason, and based off of he didn't get any like incentives, did he?
I mean, obviously playoffs you get paid extra money if you make it far in the round because like they gotta still pay you for that.
Yeah.
I mean, with the end of the season he had and having 1,200 yards through 8 games, Derrick Henry could again reset the running back market and get a bigger deal than Ezekiel got and Todd Gurley. Because, I mean, again, he's considered one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the NFL. And usually, you know how this goes in negotiations. My client's the best, pay him more than everybody else. So Derrick Henry is probably going to get a monster deal.
I don't know where, though. If I was Tennessee, I'd be very wary on this situation just because everybody else is going to be watching them because I know the Saints are going to be watching what Derrick Henry does. I know that, I mean, it's no time soon, but I know that the Giants are interested to see exactly where this goes because, of course, they have another.
Saquon.
Yeah, they have Saquon. Potentially, who is it for Arizona now? Kenyon Drake. I don't think he has a. I don't think
Drake does what he did this past year at the end of the season all year long. He's about to get another big contract. He's going to get a big contract.
Thing about it is Derrick Henry isn't not a good catch or a pass catcher out the backfield.
Yeah,
he's a decent blocker. He's not the.
I mean, he's big.
Yeah, he's big. So like he's kind of his size makes it a bit fair of a matchup to block. But at the end of the day, he's going to take a beating. Right? He's not the fastest guy. He's not the quickest guy.
He's like a old school kind of guy, just runs in the hole and just punishes guys. And Derrick Henry's been in the league for a while now, hasn't he? He's like 28, 29, isn't he?
I think he's like 28.
So. Yeah, so he's entering the prime years of a running back.
Right.
So this would be the time you would give him a contract like this, but it's like...
How much do you really want to give a guy who's looking towards punishment, not looking to run away from punishment?
Yeah, but it's like...
And
you can't let him walk either. Because I mean,
that's the thing.
You don't have a back that's like him.
Yeah, but we just saw Mostert, a guy who was dropped and cut from 6 different teams, just run for 250 in the national or in the championship game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
Damian Williams is a backup, or he was before Kareem Hunt got traded. So in reality, what exactly are we looking at here? Are we paying? Like he's going to reset the market, sure, but I'm not sure if the Cowboys are really excited the fact that they paid Zeke all that money after this season. I'm not sure exactly what the Saints are going to do with Alvin Kamara. I'm not sure how running backs are looked at. Look at Le'Veon Bell. Mm-hmm. He didn't get exactly what he was looking for on the market either. Yeah, but it's
didn't play that well.
And that still is not, the situation for him is not the best.
Yeah, he could be on the move.
And then look at James Conner. James Conner, after last season, which people thought he was going to look to a good payday too, he had an up and down season this year. Phillip Lindsay, same situation. You know, these running backs, there's a lot of running back talent in the league, so you really don't know exactly what the premium is and what's worth being a part of that conversation, I guess. So,
I mean, hey, Derrick Henry's been, you can maybe say, the most consistent out of all of them for the last few years, maybe.
Maybe.
You know, he hasn't really had a down year. It's just, like you say, he does go look for punishment instead of avoid it. So,
yeah. I mean, he didn't really explode until really this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
Because he had flashes of, like, showing what he was able to do.
Plus, it was Tennessee. You know, there's not a lot of people paying attention to Tennessee.
Right.
They're paying attention now because he did it in the biggest games of their season and in the playoffs where everybody's paying attention. Yeah. So now you have to see, wow, Derrick Henry's so great. And it's like, well, I mean, he's kind of been doing this for a second. It's Tennessee.
Right.
Especially... because they got to pay Tannehill too. It's like, we pay both of them.
If they believe they need to pay Tannehill.
I mean, I'm sure they are. I think Tannehill was in the last year of his deal anyway when they traded him from Miami. So,
right.
You know, and when you're a team like Tennessee, who's like right at the edge of maybe feeling like they're making a Super Bowl run because they were in the AFC Championship game, we don't want to take away from that, and then now we're pushed back. You know,
they're in a better position, but there's still people that you can go out and look at. I mean, Jameis, he might be on the block.
Boy,
there's options. There's
Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater is a possibility. Even you can look in the draft, like if they have a first round pick.
Yeah, they think about
Eason or
they were talking about Justin Herbert going to the Chargers.
Really?
Yeah, they said that. I mean, because they have the 7th pick, I think. So
the Chargers, yeah.
So I think obviously if Tua goes up ahead of that and Burrow goes 1, they're looking for a quarterback because it looks like obviously coming up in the next segment, Rivers might leave or is going to leave. So they're going to have to find a new guy, and obviously you probably want to find a guy you can start fresh with instead of leaving. It really just depends. San Diego has a lot of options, so they really could affect the quarterback market.
Let's take it to break real quick, and then we'll get back on that.
All right.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, so we were just talking about San Antonio, or not San Antonio. I got basketball in the brain, but I guess they're not San Diego either. So just the Chargers, the LA Chargers, they're looking to move on from Phillip Rivers. I think that might be something. They're definitely that's definitely been reported that Phillip Rivers has moved everybody out of his San Diego home and he's moved to Miami.
They use the word permanently.
Yeah, so it's looking to see that he might not be the quarterback for the LA Chargers. They might be looking to move elsewhere, maybe in the draft or maybe in free agency. We don't really know for sure yet, but what are you thinking about?
I mean, the thing about Rivers that hurts him is just like the league is transformed to where you don't have to be like a runner, but you got to be mobile. And Rivers is not mobile, and he's a turnover machine. So unless your offensive line is like elite, then Rivers would probably not be the best pickup for you.
Right.
I mean, Rivers has talent though. I mean, he can still throw it and make some plays. It's just, if anything at this point in career, he's a transitional quarterback for a team. I don't think you might have a team out there who might try to, but usually I think a team might bring him like, hey, we want you to be our 1 year stopgap or like, quarterback for whoever, because like, even if, he goes to like Tampa Bay, I mean, realistically, do you think that there'll be better with Phillip Rivers? You're basically going from the first highest rated turnover machine to the second. So the only difference is obviously Jameis is way worse than everybody else.
Right.
But still, Jameis was mobile. Mm-hmm. Rivers isn't. So if the Bucs offensive line is not good, you're going to basically have a repeat of last year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Rivers has showed he can put up big numbers. And the Buccaneers have receivers. So it's like, you could, Mm-hmm. And it just really depends, man. I mean, I feel like it looks like he's going to play. So if he plays, I do think this will be Rivers last year, in my opinion. Because either this year he has some resurgent year and has a great year and he's like, I can play forever. Or he has another bad year and he probably knows, this is 2 years in a row. I gotta go.
I really think that he doesn't play again. I think this is just it. That he just moved his family back to Florida. I think Phillip Rivers, a lot of people think that he might be a really good I guess, commentator, a voice in the
Potentially.
in the scene. So that might be interesting. Maybe say if our boy from CBS decides to go to ESPN, right? Mm-hmm. So Tony Romo decides to leave. All of a sudden, that leaves a hole for maybe to implement Phillip Rivers into the CBS role as a color analyst, because a lot of people think that he'd be good at that job as well. And that kind of segues into what I think is on board for Tom Brady, which is I don't think Tom Brady is going to retire, because I don't think his drop-off has been as harsh. Because Phillip Rivers' drop-off from what he was last year comparative to this year was unreal.
They had injuries, but you can also say the team was like 12-4, 13-3 last year now.
Yeah. Like, that team is way too talented for, like, Phillip literally threw them out some games.
Yeah.
And
that's why they weren't good in one possession games, because Rivers always made that mistake or that one play.
Who was it? I forgot which game I was watching where he threw a back shoulder fade throw to end the game, and he threw just the worst pick I've seen in a long time, where they were just driving. And it was, I'm not even sure how they got the ball back, but he just threw it in the back of the end zone. I can't remember. But it was just a bad look. So, yeah, for Tom Brady, I think he'll be a Patriot. I think he's posturing because, people have been saying, oh, Tom Brady, he might be looking elsewhere. He might be going where we could end up. Either he's going to be a Patriot or he's not. Yeah, and by not, I mean he's not going to be in football. I don't think they are going to let him walk, or the Patriots, because no matter what Bill thinks, he doesn't own the team. So,
I mean, it's interesting that you say that. I mean, the thing about it is, Tom Brady said on a radio show he's very open-minded, so a lot of people say he's open. And obviously a lot of people have connected him with San Diego and Phillip Rivers, so like he's leaving, because they feel like that's the best roster he can probably get and compete for another championship as soon as possible, because you think, they have Keenan Allen, Eckler. Maybe if they keep Melvin Gordon, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, their offensive line is decent. They can get better, but they're decent. And you would think they have a lot of defensive talent. So they would think, he'll go. And then, Tom Brady comes off as a California kind of guy. And that's in California now, especially LA. It feels like everything fits there. Like, that's why everybody's connecting him to there, because they feel like everything fits there. We'll have to really see. I feel like if you're San Diego, I feel like you have to make that push at Brady, because you give him the money that he wants, and then at the same time, I still would try to. Brady is 43, right? So he's probably about to say, if you want to play till 45, about 2 more years, you could still go ahead and draft you a guy if you wanted to, and then you'll be putting your team in a very good position, I think, long term. So if somehow Brady fell apart, it's not like, wow, it's over. You never know. You might have some amazing result, and the guy you draft ends up being the guy just sooner.
So you mean like they draft Herbert, right?
Yeah, they draft Herbert still, even though they get Tom.
I think, but the thing about people learning under other people is also like the ecosystem. So it would be like a whole different environment for Tom Brady to be. It's not like he's comfortable just yet. If he were to go to San Diego, he'd have to learn a whole new system. He'd have to get used to new receivers. It'd be a lot different for him to just automatically go into, now he was going from, I came here to win a championship and continue to cement my legacy in the league, to now I'm trying to win a championship, and now I'm somehow trying to teach this young guy how to replace me. And I don't think Tom Brady was ever that kind of guy.
I don't think he's going to teach him. I think he'll do what he did with Garoppolo. He'll just play, and then Garoppolo can just watch it and take what he wants. Literally, people say you got a mentor, but literally he could just sit there and watch and just like, okay, what does he do? Look at his work ethic and stuff like that. Because you can't make someone not look at that. Like, I can't be studying my playbook, and then the rookie comes in there, look at me, and he's like, stop looking at me. Don't study me. I don't want you to get my habits. So, I think really, Brady, he's, I feel like it just sounds like if it's not the Chargers, then you would think it's the Patriots. Because I don't see anywhere else he would go. Now, maybe far third is Tampa Bay, maybe. Because you can make the same argument. Receivers, running back, they have a defense. It's in Miami. It's not hot. It's in Tampa, so it's not a cold weather place.
Right.
So he's going to always have good weather most of the time. He's in a we don't know what's going to happen to the Saints. We don't know what's going to happen to the Panthers. We don't know what's going to happen to the Falcons. So you can say the NFC South is up for grabs. It's not like, it's definitive, there'll be like still the fourth worst team or anything.
Yeah.
Even in the AFC West, I mean, if he goes there, that'll be a tough conference. Remember, they played Kansas City twice, so he'll have to face Patrick Mahomes twice. That's not going to be easy. Denver with Drew Lock, you don't know what they're going to look like next year. Drew Lock played well. Oakland could be better. We'll have to see, but they could be better. So I feel like, he has those options where in the AFC East, you feel like, especially with Josh McDaniels not getting a head coaching job, I think that helped New England because that's like his guy.
Yeah.
And I just think if he stayed in the AFC, East, I mean, you still have the same, unless Buffalo's going to be good next year, great, but you'd still be the favorites.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's happening with Miami, you don't know what's happening with New York. I mean, you relatively feel like your bestest chance at a path is New England because you know the system, you know what you got. It's just the problem is if they pay Brady what he wants, can they actually get better talent around him? And if Brady realistically looks at it like, if I come back and get my money and they can't put better talent around me, then was it worth coming back? Yeah. I think that's why the other two teams are potentially out there because they already have talent. They just need a quarterback instead of, we have a defense at a quarterback. We just don't got the talent around them. So it's a little bit of a different situation, in my opinion.
I feel you. So we're going to take our last break here, and then we're going to finish out the rest of the show with some Super Bowl party antics. What is it about Super Bowl parties that are always so attractive? Why do people go? Is it worth still going? That's what we're going to come up with coming back out of this break. All right, so
this is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Bryce, do you go to Super Bowl parties? Are you a Super Bowl party guy? Do you do that?
I've been to a few. Obviously, while I was getting an education, they would have some, obviously, around, campus. Obviously, I went to a church one before. I remember the first Super Bowl I ever watched was I went to my old church, and we watched the game there. It's, I'd go this year. If somebody had a Super Bowl party, I'd go this year, too. It's a good experience. It's a very... Super Bowl party is not even, it really just depends on the group of people you bring together.
Really?
Yeah, because listen, you have some people who will, if you get a bunch of drinkers, everybody's about to be wasted watching the Super Bowl. You might have just a nice family Super Bowl party, just the family gets together, talks, watch the commercials, because the Super Bowl commercials are big during the Super Bowl. And then you just have fun with friends. Obviously a lot of hey, get all your boys together. Hey man, let's go here and watch the Super Bowl. It really just depends on the group of people. Because remember, I was in a church setting, I was in a friend setting, I was in a family setting. So it's just a different experience depending on who you bring or what party you go to or who you bring together for your party. I always feel like it's easier to me to host it than to go to it because when you're hosting it, again, you can bring the type of party you want there because you know who to invite and who you don't want to invite. Where when you go to it, it's like if your boy just invites you over. You don't know who's there, what kind of people, because you may be a person who actually watches the game.
See, that's my thing. I'm going to want to actually watch the game, right? And really look at it from a real deeper football standing than just, it's an event. I mean, of course there's an event and I'm well aware of that, but sometimes you just want to watch the game and really see what two teams are going to do to try and keep each other out of contention to win the game. So there's that element. I also think that it really has to depend on what the food is looking at. I'm a food guy. Yeah. That's what I do. Yeah. So
what would you say is a good Super Bowl meal? Like a good Super Bowl, what would you have if you had one yourself?
Oh man. Listen. The first thing on the menu always has to be wings. Because if it's not gonna be a good time. So it's gotta be a lot of shareable food. It can't be Crock pot food is cool. So like, things that, like some chilies or whatever. But I like combinations. So like nachos.
Dip.
Yeah, dips are well needed. Various amounts of stuff. So like,
how you feel about the veggie platter?
I'm more of a fruit platter guy.
Fruit platter?
I think nobody eats the carrots or celery.
Yeah.
I've found
even with the ranch, like,
if you're hosting it, you're going to be left with the ranch, celery, and the carrots. Everybody else is going to eat the fruit. They're going to eat the apples with the caramel dip. They're going to eat the strawberries if you do the strawberries in the Cool Whip.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever the case may be. They're going to do that before they touch a celery stick and ranch. Just because if you're going to use ranch, you're using it for your wings, or you're using blue cheese if you roll like that. But that's really all. That's really all it is.
Would you like have pizza there?
No, I'm not a pizza guy. It's too heavy. Too much bread.
Too much bread.
Too much bread.
Okay.
That's why I'm against pizza.
I mean, because Papa John's be blowing up on Super Bowl because that's the sponsor of the league. So
people are doing it wrong, spending too much money. The amount of money you can spend on more wings rather than 3 or 4 boxes
wings
of
and
pizza
has always been looked at as like a party thing.
Yeah, and like pizza is like you can feed a lot of people off of it, so that's what people look at it as. But if you think about it from a logical perspective, the amount of pizza you'll get left over that nobody wants, and it's weird about party pizza compared to pizza you buy personally. Anybody will eat a pizza that they bought personally the next day, but it's something about a party pizza that is just going to get thrown away. It's not no one.
Everybody had their hands on.
Yeah, nobody's gonna eat that the next day.
And you always try to order enough if you're having like a big one.
Yeah,
you want to order enough, and then you might be left like 4 boxes of pizza, and it's like, well, I don't want to sit here and just eat pizza for like the next week,
right? Because really, you only eat 2 or 3, and then you're full off of bread and pizza and sauce or cheese and sauce. There was no substance, so that's why like finger food, like sandwiches and stuff, is a no go for me.
Would you be drinking like the hard alc? Or are you going to like beer or like?
It depends on the Super Bowl party. And if I really want to watch the game, I'm probably not going to be involved. Drink too much? Nah, if at all, really, because it's just a lot. Because you're going to be eating, you're going to be sitting down. It's like you're moving around. So it's really just.
Obviously, people got to drive home. You don't want having to crash.
And Super Bowl food or just party food in general, when you're watching like sporting events, they're really heavy hitters on the dietary scale. So you don't want to multiply the level of itis that you can achieve.
I'll keep it real with you, man. If I go to the Super Bowl party and I see me some Everclear, I might have to walk out of there.
It's not the right party to be at. If you ever see something like that, or like you see bottles being poured up into one container, that's not a Super Bowl party anymore. Nobody's watching.
This is just an excuse to have some type of party.
Yeah, it's not a game anymore for them.
It's background noise.
Yeah, you're gonna
when the game's over. Oh, they won, yes sir.
Yeah,
watch the game.
That's when people come in and out of the party saying, "What's the score?" But they haven't watched like 2 minutes of the game side by side, so they just keep coming in and out. And everybody's just walking around, and there's not a lot of people sitting and watching. People are telling you to turn the television down. The music's louder than the show or than the event. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm not really a big party guy. Usually it's like me and the family. We sit, we may have some wings, may have some nachos or do a little dip here or there, and we watch the game. And, granted, I haven't been at home for many Super Bowls in recent time, but, it's just not, I don't find it as a good excuse to go out. People who go out to Super Bowl events and pay money.
Go to the bars and stuff.
It's desperate times, bro, because I couldn't do it. It couldn't be for me.
Yeah. Would you ever host one yourself?
Maybe one time. I have friends who say like, oh yeah, I'm interested in hosting. I may slide by and go to one of those, but it's something about when the Super Bowl either is in hands or the game is over. I don't feel like driving home. I'd be like the food. You're tired.
Yeah, it's like
I just want to go to sleep. So it's that sort of thing too that ties into all of that. But we're going to wrap it up here for the last installment of the GSMC, or latest installment, not the last, because we'll be here again every month. But the latest installment of the GSMC football podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening. Don't forget to rate and review us on any platform that you do choose to listen to us. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media. That'll be our Facebook, our Instagram, and our Twitter. So for Bryce, this is Ethan Orfe signing out for GSMC Football Podcast. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.